This presentation will follow our trip through the United Kingdom. We visited all four Parliament or Assembly buildings, and I pulled some examples of symbolism within the buildings to discuss. Enjoy as we start our trip in London, then travel to Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Welcome to England, Palace of Westminster, home to the Parliament of the United Kingdom. The Palace of Westminster is home to the Parliament of the United Kingdom. The original palace was built in the 11th century and was of strategic importance during the Middle Ages. The current building is owned by the monarch and retains its original status as a royal residence for ceremonial purposes. The Westminster system of government commemorates the name. The designer of the building placed the Lord's Chamber, the Commons Chamber, and the Sovereign Throne in a straight line physically to link the three elements of Parliament in a continuous form. The Lord's Chamber is adorned in red and has the grandest interior of all the rooms. This is because this is where the three parts of Parliament, the Sovereign, the Lords, and the Commons, come together. There are 6 allegorical frescoes representing religion, chivalry, and law, which were considered cornerstone virtues by the Victorians. There are benches on 3 sides. Seats to the right of the speaker are considered the spiritual side. Government party members and archbishops and bishops of the Church of England sit here. To the left is called the temporal side, where the opposition party is seated. Members with other or no affiliation sit on the end and are often referred to as crossbenchers. The Lord Speaker sits on the wool sack. It is stuffed with wool from throughout the Commonwealth and represents the historical importance of the wool trade. A ceremonial mace representing authority will be placed on the back of the wool sack. The Commons is adorned in green, with a much simpler style. It has a crossbench style that encourages debate and only seats 427 of the 650 members, ensuring that the room is almost always full. The 2 red lines between the benches are 2.5 meters apart, about 2 sword lengths. Rumor is that this was meant to prevent conflict. Although there is no record of members regularly carrying swords into the chamber, swords would most often be hung in the cloakroom, where the sword hangers exist to this day. To the speaker's right are members of the government party, to the left are the opposition party members. The House of Commons also has a mace to represent authority. It is placed on the table of the House. The entrance to the House of Commons is framed by Churchill's arch. The chamber was destroyed by bombing during World War II. As Prime Minister, Churchill pleaded for the bomb-damaged archway to remain. It was to be a reminder for future generations. There is so much to see at Westminster. It is an assault on the senses in the best way possible. The history in and represented by this building and its contents is astounding. I pulled a few representations of symbolism, but the list is much longer. Not to mention the symbolism of the ceremonies that occur here, but that's a different presentation. I appreciate the love of tradition and history, but I'm not sure I see the modern United Kingdom represented in this building. Welcome to Wales, Senedd Cymru, home to Welsh Parliament. The site chosen for the Senedd is somewhat an homage to Wales's past. Cardiff Bay, once known as Tiger Bay and Cardiff Docks, put Wales squarely on the world stage, and this site represents the wish of Wales to be visible as an independent nation once again. Materials were sourced throughout Wales, such as steel, oak, and slate, to help celebrate and represent both rural and urban communities. As mentioned earlier, Cardiff Bay was once known as Tiger Bay. Tiger Bay was a multi-ethnic community with sailors and workers from more than 50 countries. The Cardiff docks were used to export coal to the rest of the world to help power the industrial age. It seems fitting that the site of Wales's oldest multi-ethnic community has become home to their parliament. The central theme of the building is transparency. Believing that political transparency builds healthy politics, They wanted this transparency to be reflected in the aesthetics of the building. From the outer glass walls to the viewing areas of the chamber and committee rooms, the work of politicians is in full view of the public. The center column of the building is meant to represent a tree, meeting the ceiling in oval or football-shaped impressions, which are meant to represent the hulls of ships. When looking across the ceiling, these impressions also represent waves and the high and low tides of the sea, alluding to the shipping industry that once dominated the area. It also can make you think of the beautiful coastline that Wales is known for. The cedar ceiling inside the building continues outside. The wood outside is aged much differently than what is inside. This was anticipated. It represents the idea that rules and laws made inside the building can have many different effects on the population outside the village. The chamber itself is circular, leading to a more inclusive feel. Circular seating also creates debate that is less confrontational than the opposing bench design. This is a step away from the political process of England. The Welsh Parliament does continue a tradition in the United Kingdom of having a ceremonial mace. The mace represents the authority of the Senate to create rules and laws given to them by the monarch of the United Kingdom. Mace in Wales remains visible during the whole term. I think the Welsh have created a building that they can be proud of for years to come. The site itself acknowledges the importance of their history, while the building represents their ability to guide their future. The main theme of transparency is seen throughout. There are very few places not visible to the visitors and citizens who are welcomed inside. My favorite symbol is the wood ceiling, though. The change from inside to outside is a powerful message. The work done inside is for and can affect the citizens outside. They maintain a nod to tradition with the mace. They acknowledge their power is given by the monarch, but simply the design of the chamber is a step away from the English Parliament. The circle represents a more inclusive and cooperative government. Wales truly wants all their citizens to feel welcome and their interests included in their parliament. I say well done, Wales. Now on to Scotland. Welcome to Scotland, Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament. Originally left off the short list, the site for the Scottish Parliament is a fitting one. Home at the time to Scottish and Newcastle headquarters, the site was offered up late in the process. It sits along the Royal Mile adjacent to Holyrood Palace, within Old Town. Although the site was controversial, it seems like a proper fit, with areas nearby being extensively renovated. The goal of the building was to achieve a union between the landscape, the people, and the culture. Aerial views show the building representing leaves and branches, while the landscaping and paths leading off the building represent roots coming from the ground. The building is born from the land of the people to serve them. A prominent feature of the outside of the building are these shapes. Some see fists of many ethnic backgrounds clenched in solidarity. Others see these shapes as drawn curtains, representing the ability of the people to see what is happening inside. The Scots have chosen an ellipse shape for their chamber. This is meant to promote conversation amongst the members. Like Wales, it steps back from the adversarial crossbench design that we see in London. They do continue the use of a mace as a representation of authority over devolved matters. A major theme seems to develop involving the people watching the actions of Parliament. The designs on the walls are not representing bottles, but are meant to represent people. The people are watching and always present. These shapes continue into the lights with a slightly different meaning. There are 129 of these shapes in each light, meant to represent the 129 members of Parliament. Not only are the members of Parliament, they are also people of Scotland. The eye shape of the light gives a nod to the theme of people always watching as well. The desks have said to have meaning as well. The shape may seem to represent pants, and all of the desks have the same pants, meaning every member is equal. They all put on pants. While many have regarded this building as a great work of modern art, I find it to be too much. While Wales chose a theme and used it as inspiration for a few design aspects, Scotland has taken a few themes and put them everywhere. Many of these left up to interpretation due to the early passing of the designer. While I don't mind having to interpret something, the Where's Waldo montage of design is too much for my senses. I also question the longevity of the design. Will its meanings be ever changing, or will the modern work become dated as new trends emerge? Many may disagree, but I find it interesting that the Scottish Parliament sits in the face of Holyrood Palace, still used as a residence for the monarch. Is this a face-off for power? Time will tell. Welcome to Northern Ireland and Stormont Estates, home to the Northern Ireland Parliament. The Northern Ireland Parliament building sits on Stormont Estates, originally meant to be a large dome building with two side buildings, holding all three branches of government. Restraints and costs led to the building we see today, housing just the Parliament. Sitting high on a hill, it is an imposing structure, looking over the land it governs. The stark and dreary colors are a result of attempts to camouflage the building during World War II. The combination of bitumen and manure took 7 years to remove and damage the original facade. The aesthetics that were unintentionally left seem to fit a parliament that has seen much adversity. The Senate chamber is adorned in red, matching the feel of the House of Lords. A crossbench design is also used. This chamber has not been used as a parliamentary chamber since 1972 and only serves as a committee room. The Assembly chamber is adorned in blue. The use of green to match the House of Commons was deemed inappropriate. Originally there was a crossbench seating design, but a fire in 1995 destroyed the chamber. A less adversarial horseshoe seating design was installed during reconstruction of the chamber. Although Northern Ireland is a power-sharing government, there is definitely a unionist feel to the grounds. While driving up Prince of Wales Avenue, you will pass the statue of Lord Carson, a unionist leader who attempted to maintain all of Ireland in a union with Great Britain. There is also a gravesite on the Parliament grounds. Lord Craigavon and his wife are buried there. He was a unionist leader and the first Prime Minister of Northern Ireland. Ceremonial maces are popular in the United Kingdom to represent authority. The current Northern Ireland Assembly does not use or display a ceremonial mace, though. The former House of Commons of Northern Ireland and Senate of Northern Ireland did have maces as a ceremonial tool. These original maces are on display at Stormont in a permanent exhibition called Parliament Buildings, a journey of people, politics, and peace building. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, Stormont very much represents to me what I was taught in school about Northern Ireland. The stark and imposing building seems like it is suited for conflict. A strong-looking building, watching over the people, wanting to rule with a fist. The discolorization caused by the camouflage attempt also makes the building look tired and war-torn. That may be a good representation for how some of the people of Northern Ireland have felt. The worn-torn look adds to the representation of the conflicts in the current assembly. I do not personally think they are ready for a fresh start, but when they are, a more subtle and inclusive building would be appropriate. I'm not sure if this building will outlive the divide it has seen in the people it is governed over. Looking back on our trip through the United Kingdom, I developed some thoughts on how I see the Parliament buildings and what they represent. Westminster carries a deep history and has all the pomp and circumstance you could expect from a world power. The problem is that the United Kingdom was a world power. They are not any longer. It represents tradition, but I'm not sure I see a modern United Kingdom in this building. As devolved governments, Wales and Scotland have definitely modernized the political process as compared to London. Attempts at inclusiveness and transparency are apparent. Transparency is a key concept in both their buildings, but how transparency comes across is different to me. In Wales, transparency takes a welcoming form. They want you to see the work they are doing and be a part of it. In Scotland, the feel of transparency is much different. It's not the welcoming government, but a reminder to the government that the people are watching. The government should be aware that the work they are doing is for the people. Northern Ireland is a completely different feel than the other three. Growing up, Belfast would never have been a city to visit, and Stormont seems to feel like a remnant of that. I would see it as a constant reminder of past conflict and would consider it to be a hindrance to the ability to move forward. I don't know what the future holds for the government of Northern Ireland, but in my opinion, Stormont should not be a part of it. Thank you for traveling through the United Kingdom with me, and hopefully you learned something along the way.